We're going to do an instructional walkthrough video and explain all the features and how they work on our general hydraulic chute. So the first thing I'd like to talk about with our general hydraulic chute is I'd like to start with our hydraulic system. So starting with our power pack, it is 220. It's not three-phase. And starting with our cylinders, I've been asked before if you can buy our cylinders at any hydraulic store, and the answer to that is no. And the reason for it is because all of our cylinders are push-pull, and the reason that we did that is because when we set out to build this chute, we set out to build a chute and to keep moving parts to a minimum, because as we know, everything that moves eventually wears. So that presents a challenge on its own, because if you run a cylinder through a linkage, you can govern and control your speed through that linkage. But on here, when it's direct push, the only thing you have to work with is your hydraulics. So our cylinders, the reason that they're custom cylinders is because they're custom bore sizes, which is all part of the equation to get us our speed, our needed speed, because we know that it's very critical to get speed on your head gate and tailgate, as well as your top and bottom squeeze. But the cylinders are run through, on the head gate and tailgate, they're run through geared flow dividers. And the reason that there's geared flow dividers on head gate and tailgate is because with geared flow dividers, there's no pressure drop. Horsepower in equals horsepower out. Plus they have 5/8 return lines to allow that oil to breathe. Same thing, it's all part of our equation to get that needed speed. Now when we come to the structure of this chute, we all know with a high use chute like this, structural integrity is very, very, very important. So at the front and the back, we have 4x6 tubing, which is quarter wall tubing. And a couple of reasons for that. One is because this chute comes portable ready. So we have a built-in hitch in the front of our tube. With this front tube, as you'll notice how wide it is, it gives this chute a nice wide stance to keep it nice and stable. And so you'll notice these 2x4s that come down on an angle, they're doing a couple of things. One, they're giving us very good structural integrity, but the other thing they're doing is it gives us a mounting place for this bottom squeeze cylinder. And there's our receiver for our axles. Every chute comes with that. It comes with scale mount brackets. It's scale ready. And the main horizontal beams of this chute are 4x4. And this squeeze can be used in any configuration you want. V squeeze, parallel squeeze, or A squeeze. The bottom squeeze here, I'll demonstrate how it works. It's also push-pull, but you'll notice a linkage that moves along with it. And what that's doing is all it's doing is stabilizing the squeeze. And because we're taking our cylinder and we're not connecting this to the linkage and we're pushing directly onto the bottom of the squeeze, it gives us a lot longer stroke, which allows us to go from 31.5 inches down to 8.5 inches, which on a previous chute we ran it through a linkage and it was impossible to get that much stroke on it. So starting back at our tailgate doors, which are built identical to our headgate doors, it rides on a top track that's a 3-piece track. It has a cap that's folded like an upside down U, and then it has two L pieces that are formed the opposite way and going out, and it's all welded. And the flanges on opposite sides, it's a bit hard to explain, but the opposite sides where the doors are not put in, the cap is a closed loop, so what that makes is a completely structural unit. And then the head gate doors, you can't tell by looking at them, but this flange extends twice the distance from that neck post into the track. And what that's doing for us is it's creating a span for us of over 25 inches. And that, along with how we've connected the pins and the cylinders, which I'll explain in a minute, that's what makes these doors able to take those stresses at the bottom, because we all know in curtain style doors, it's a real challenge to keep them from spreading. If they're too weak, they're going to spread and they're going to fatigue in time. And what these doors run on is, if you disconnect this cylinder, and if you disconnect this cylinder mounting bracket and you pull your doors off, there's a massive Delrin slide bushings up here. They literally fall off. There's no fasteners holding them on because of the way this track is designed. Once you slide that door in, the whole setup is completely encapsulated into that form bracket. So it's very easily replaceable if they wear in time. And if you come inside the chute here, where my cylinder is mounted to, the cylinder bracket which drives that door, you'll notice that there's got 3 bolts, and at first it looks as though that's what's moving the door, but all that's doing is holding the flange, that cylinder bracket, against this flange. There is 2 machined 1.5-inch doweled pins that are doweled right into the flange, so it's not relying on those bolts at all. We've got our vet cage, and we took a lot of time because we know that it's a pretty big deal for vets, people that are preg checking cows, to give them enough headroom and access. So we spent a lot of time. We got this door, it's quite wide, it's quite high, and there's no obstructions above your head. So it's very, very comfortable to stand in and easy to get in and out. And it's just got our cam slam pin. You just lift and it automatically releases, and it's coated with poly to keep noise to a minimum. And then our top access doors, we got top access doors right from the front, right through it, including the vet door. And they go down and they lay flat against the chute so that you're not banging your shins. And you'll notice that there's a molded rubber bumper on top with on this side there's a little extrude cut. You can't see it at the moment, but what that does, it just requires a tiny little bit of push, and it adds a little bit of force to that latch, and it takes any rattle out of that door. So then as we come up to the squeeze, like I mentioned before, there's access doors the full width of it. There's rump fingers with a rump bar for added safety if you're working behind that animal. Storage pocket is right here. It's got split swing out doors for good, easy access. And they fold right back against the chute, and they're just slammed shut. And the same thing, they're coated in poly to keep noise to a minimum. Then when we come up, there's emergency exit on both sides. Both sides of the chute are identical one to the other, so there's no such thing as a left or a right chute. And this swing arm can be operated from one side or the other, just on a pivot. So there's no left and right to this chute. So the emergency exit is just one-handed pull, and it's a full opening side exit. And I just want to point out, it's got latch top and bottom with a 1-inch pin, so there's no twisting on that door. and it's got a heavy 2.5 by 2.5 3/8 angle, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, that angle is tucked in between these two latches, top and bottom, so it's impossible for an animal to lift or raise that door to keep the stresses on your hinges to a minimum. And the other thing is, you don't notice it at first glance, but that angle is actually wrapping that first tube on your squeeze, so that when you shut it, instead of having a gap and another post to lose access to your animal, there's only that one post. So all you lose is about 2.5 inches from front to back for access. So when we come to our head gate, like I explained, the front and back are exactly the same. And then on here, we've improved our neck extenders. Our former neck extenders were push the animal's head to one side. So this one just pulls the animal's head straight out, so it doesn't matter what side you're working on. You've got good access, and it doesn't matter what size of an animal. So it lays flat against the head gate, and the importance of that is it keeps that window fairly large for catching that animal, so you get fewer misses. And then from calf to those long neck cows, you can stretch them out to whatever is needed. And if you come to the front here, it comes standard with a rubber floor, and we got pans that are huck bolted in with stainless steel huck bolts, and that's what supports the rubber. And there's gaps every so often in those floor planks to allow for drainage, and the rubber itself is fastened in with stainless steel huck rivets, and it comes sternum bar ready. There's your sternum bar, which slides in just a simple slot at the back and bolted in the front, so it's nice and quiet and sturdy. Well, thank you very much for watching this video on our general hydraulic chute. We hope it was helpful to you. If you have any questions or concerns, you can call up our salesman or call our client care team, and they'll be more than glad to help you. Thank you very much.